action here. We're back in action on the 20th, of December. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days till Christmas. Everybody's running around. We will be here the day before Christmas, next Monday. We will have a show on Christmas. We don't know what it's going to be yet. Probably a repeat of some sort or something. Who knows? Oh, wait.
Mark is going to sing Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer.
Oh, the world is ending
for
tomorrow.
3 hours.
The world is ending tomorrow. So.
And Mark's not telling us where the party is.
Oh.
Yeah, that's just not right.
I sent you guys the weather report for tomorrow, for the week actually. Right. Did you see it?
No.
It has on Monday for Florida. It has 81 in the day, 73 at night.
Really?
Tuesday. Yeah,
No. It has 77.
Just listen.
Hang on. On Tuesday, it has 75 in the day, 68 at night. And nice, sunny clouds.
Oh, wait a minute.
On Wednesday, it has 77 in the day and then 68 at night. On Thursday, 75 in the day and 68 at night. And then on Friday, the daytime weather on the little thing that I was sent, it is 1,450 degrees Fahrenheit during the day with fireballs coming down from the sky. It's this little weather report graphic, and then at night it chills down to 1,250 degrees Fahrenheit, and then Saturday there's no weather on this little thing. So that's the weather report. Hey, yesterday we had a fascinating show. This is Tom Trento, Trento Vision on the Vision side, on the simulcast video TV show on the internet. You can watch on your iPhones, you can watch on your computers, you can do all that stuff and see the hilarity and the education. Or if you're old school and just want to listen on the radio, WNN 1470. But you got to be somewhere, you got to be one of 5 million people in South Florida to listen on the car radio or the home radio. Anybody have home radios anymore? I guess so.
I do.
You do have a home radio?
Oh, you want your phone?
But if you put the application iHeartRadio on your phone.
So easy, CJ can do it.
Yes, and go to the search bar and put in WNN. Mark always puts his computer right in the walking path. WNN, you'll get us, and then you can listen to digitally crystal clear audio anywhere on the face of the earth that you have a phone signal. It's really very cool. So those are the ways you can listen. Yesterday, one of our listeners, we created a little difficulty in her life. Our friend Danita, she was listening. Yes, she was riveted by
Ronnie Wexler.
Yeah, by Ronnie Wexler's analysis.
Yeah.
And Danita is a Christian, and she learned a lot about Judaism and Christianity, studying years ago the God's provision in the wars, the various wars in Israel. Right. So as he was talking, a rabbi,
right,
but also a historian and a tour director is not the right term for him. I mean, he's so far past a tour director. But as she was listening,
he's not actually a rabbi.
No, he didn't. He didn't do his take the test for that. He didn't want to do it. He did all the schooling, but he didn't take the test.
Right.
And she needed to take a shower.
Wait a minute.
While she was watching,
needed to take a shower because she was sweating during the show?
No. She had to go out and do all of this, and she needed to get on with her life.
She needed to get ready, but she was so riveted.
She could not leave, and we messed her day up, but she sent me a beautiful letter.
Is she going to come with us to Israel?
She better. She absolutely better. Start saving your shekels, for sure.
Yeah.
But right now, where do we have Claire?
Yeah, we have her on Skype, and we have her on the landline.
Okay. So Claire, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
No.
Yes, in a second.
Okay, go ahead.
Claire, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you fine. How about me?
Yes, we hear you great. Can you see me?
No, I don't see you.
Okay, look out your window. I'm right next to you. I'm over there.
I see a UPS truck out there. Presents for Christmas.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, I got a side job. I got to pay the bills somehow. How you like those shorts I'm wearing? No shorts. Those guys probably wear long pants up there.
Are you wearing your Aloha shirt?
Yes, your Aloha shirt. Okay, we have Claire Lopez with us today on our show, and we sent a blast email out to 20,000 people, and then it goes to another 20,000 people. And there's a lot of interest, Claire, in the explosive nature, the explosive moment. And not that the Middle East isn't exploding, but everybody's waiting for like the big one of some sort, whether it's chemical, biological, nuclear, or whether it's a full-blown regional war, what it is. So we need to, in this hour, analyze consider your analysis of what you think. Let's make some end of the year predictions. And then what is the role of the Brotherhood? It looks like the Brotherhood, through the assistance of this administration, the Obama administration, is successfully laying down the geopolitical modalities to form a Sunni caliphate all around Israel, with the exception of Hezbollah, the Shia side, who are now fighting on the side of Bashar Assad. What's going on, Claire, with Syria? Let's start there. Let's unlock the mysteries of Syria.
First with the broader, what is going on with Islam taking over the world, basically, and that's why all these regimes are undergoing what they're going right now, and that's why the United States is under such a high threat.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, good point, CJ. We'll go macro and come down to micro.
Got it.
You said it exactly right, Tom. This administration, the administration of Barack Obama, came into office with an agenda to empower the Muslim Brotherhood, both at home and abroad. Domestically, we've seen that he has staffed all of his cabinet departments that have to do with national security, Department of Defense, Department of Homeland Security, State, Justice, and the intelligence community, either staff them with outright Muslim brothers or supporters and enablers of the Muslim Brotherhood, and also has reached out to Muslim Brotherhood front groups and individuals to be advisors and trainers to the government. So that's domestically. And of course we know that the Muslim Brotherhood has been working in the United States since at least the aftermath of World War II. So it's that many decades to infiltrate every, you might call it, pillar of support of society, and that means academia, it means media, the government, obviously, the workplace, society in general. But of course, foreign policy circles would have been the prize, and they've got that now.
But also they've been firing or silencing everybody in the foreign policy and military and intelligence community who's going to give an assessment of the Muslim Brotherhood like you're doing now.
Well, that's exactly part of the process of the way I've heard it described is that infiltration began, as I said, these many decades ago. Now it's become institutionalization. So from infiltration to institutionalization of the Muslim Brotherhood in the structures of national security and intelligence and government in the United States. That is what's happening to all intents and purposes. And so with that kind of a structure here at home established and institutionalized, then it came time for the United States to participate in the international Islamic awakening, if you want to call it that, the international Islamic jihad, on the side of the jihadis. The United States has joined the jihad on the side of the jihadis.
Yeah, that's something that I think people need to fully understand, that they're not. I think everyday people will begin to understand that. Obviously, our leadership doesn't, and certainly our political leadership is weak on it.
It's not that they don't understand. They're not making mistakes. This is policy. This is what their policy is. These aren't errors. This isn't miscalculation. This is their policy.
Willful ignorance?
No, it's not even ignorance.
No, I'm talking about the political leaders.
That's what I mean. Some of them. Let's say just some of them.
Yeah.
But so with the United States ready to pitch in, that's when we saw the timeline begin as our our friend, and maybe some of the listeners and watchers, viewers know, our good friend Steve Coughlin,
Right.
brilliant lawyer and expert on Islamic law. And he has put together something called the Timeline, which shows how the events in the Middle East unfolded. And there is a schedule to this, and it's been published. You can go back as far as 2005. And the German publication called Der Spiegel, which is translated into English, you can look it up on the internet and read it easily in English, published in that year, 2005, a document or a timeline that Al-Qaeda had laid out and made public for how they intend to conquer Western civilization, and first starting with the Middle East. It's all laid out. The schedule is there. From 2010 until 2013 is the time for overthrowing secular governments in the Middle East. This is part of the Al-Qaeda timeline. It was published 7 years ago. They are smack on target with their timeline. So what happens? 2010, the Al-Qaeda Inspire magazine online comes out with a call, and it says, you Muslims of the world, Muslim Brotherhood, rise up and turn the page from Mecca to Medina. This infiltration phase is done. The dawah phase is finished. It's time for jihad. That's essentially what they said. And a few months later, the new supreme guide of the Muslim Brotherhood in Cairo, Egypt, his name is Mohammed Badi, answers back to Al-Qaeda, and they said, we're with the Al-Qaeda. We, the Muslim Brotherhood, declare war, jihad, on the United States of America, Israel, Jews everywhere, of course, and unfaithful Arab Muslim rulers. Who are unfaithful Arab Muslim rulers? Well, they're the ones who don't enforce Sharia and don't engage in jihad. And who are they? Well, to begin with, they were the secular rulers. Ben Ali in Tunisia, Muammar Gaddafi in Libya, Hosni Mubarak in Egypt, and Bashar al-Assad in Syria. These are the first ones to go. The monarchs will be next. That means King Abdullah in Jordan, another King Abdullah in Saudi Arabia. They're next. But first, the seculars had to go. And so, absolutely according to the timeline, down they go like the pins in a bowling alley.
Right.
And who is helping them? The United States of America is helping the Al-Qaeda militias in these places and the Muslim Brotherhood organizations in these places to topple these rulers, some of whom had been our allies. Mubarak, who kept the peace with Israel for 30 years. Gaddafi, who was totally in a box. He was helping us to fight against Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, AQIM as it's called. He had given up his WMD programs. He was helping us. And so we turned on them. And who did we work with to turn on them? Well, we worked with the Al-Qaeda militias, the armed gunmen in the region. In Libya, that meant that former ambassador Christopher Stevens was dispatched last year, 2011, to be the official United States government liaison to Al-Qaeda in Libya. He worked with the Al-Qaeda militias to topple Gaddafi. And of course, we also sent in planes on bombing runs and other assistance funding, special forces, CIA on the ground, intelligence.
Hey, Claire,
and we are
Claire,
working on
Claire.
the same thing in Syria now.
Claire, this is Tom. For the viewers and the listeners, we're pretty familiar with a lot of this material and the dominoes and where they're going, and but even those of us that do this stuff, we know we have a president that is pro-Palestinian, pro-Islam, anti-American. We know that. We understand where he came from, how he thinks, all of that. But one guy doesn't run the government of the United States of America.
That's the why.
What are the people thinking? What is the brain trust, the intelligence, military brain trust of the United States thinking when they say, yes, we need to help overthrow these people that have been suppressing this jihad genie? What's going on in their mind? What's their end game? The generals and the intelligence officers.
It's hard for me to know. I've said before, I don't know why there isn't a line of brass lined up in front of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, winding down the sidewalk and around the block of Constitution Avenue, Pennsylvania Avenue, waiting to turn in their resignations. I don't know how they can be thinking. I really don't. But what I will say is that after 9/11, when we were absolutely caught flat-footed, the intelligence, the military, the government, national security structures of this country were caught totally unawares. They went into panic mode. They went into panic stations, and they reached out flailing for any kind of help and assistance. Who are these guys? Why did they hit us? Why did they hate us? Remember these questions? Remember these,
And this goes back to the Republicans too. It's not just
Sure it
Democrats.
does.
No, it's both.
Absolutely it does.
Hey, Claire, let's touch on Iraq for a minute. I'm going to bring somebody on who's just another guest. Iraq was a mess with Saddam Hussein, and we went in and saved it. We helped write a constitution for Iraq, a Sharia-compliant, Sharia-focused constitution. What is the role of Iraq right now, and how does that differ from what the intent of our treasure and blood and efforts and money and all of that, what was the intent and what is the consequence?
Let me just finish the previous thought really quickly, and
Okay.
that is what's in their minds of our national security leadership and military. When they reached out, they didn't know to whom they should be reaching for advice and knowledge about the enemy, the Islamic Jihad enemy that struck us on 9/11. And so who was waiting, ready, organized? It was the Muslim Brotherhood in America.
Exactly.
That's who they reached out to. That's who they brought in as advisors, and even in some cases appointees.
So the government is kind of flailing around, and the Brotherhood has been preparing for this moment for 30 years, 40 years, and they've put themselves in those positions of human rights boards and official positions of leadership in the Muslim world. And here's how you solve the problem. We got to get rid of those dictators. Everybody wants democracy
Well,
over
Bush
there.
was standing up there going, Islam is a religion of peace. You look
Yeah.
over his left shoulder, and who was there, Claire?
That was Nihad Awad.
Yeah.
We're talking about that picture in the
Right.
the Islamic Center of Washington, D.C., taken on September the 12th, 2001.
Yeah, he's standing up there.
And,
he might as well have a hand in the back of George Bush,
like
making
a
a
That
mountain.
close
move.
to him. Nihad Awad, for your listeners and viewers, is the executive director of something called CARE, Council on American Islamic Relations. But he's also a member of Hamas and was present at a 1993 meeting in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, that was monitored by the FBI precisely because it was a meeting of the Hamas leadership in America. And at that meeting, they formed CARE. CARE was intended to be a new name, a different face, not quite different face, because you still had Nihad Awad, Abu Marzouk, and others who were known to be Hamas figures, but a new name in any case, a new organization to place distance between themselves and Hamas. But that's where CARE comes from, and there's Nihad Awad. You can see how close he was to the president. You can think
Hang
about
on,
the
I
leaders
gotta
of
move through
Hamas
this.
and the Muslim Brotherhood who got that close to various administrations.
I mean, we can go all over the place in a lot of this, but I'm going down a particular track. Hang on. Let's get to Iraq. I want to bring Ben in. What's your question?
Oh, I just wanted to say where Claire was asking, what were they thinking and who did they go to? Well, who they went to, you'd have to be a complete idiot not to know who you were dealing with when you're reaching out to CARE and the Muslim Brotherhood in America for any information
But in those
at all.
early days-
And in the second place now, there's absolutely, after
There's
the
no-
Holy Land Foundation trial, for anybody,
excuse.
no excuse at all for anybody to be supporting any of the Muslim
why-
Brotherhood front groups in the United States.
That's-
They're doing it to protect their jobs, their retirement,
That's why,
their pensions, and everything else, and it's treason against the United States.
Part of it, too, is the fact that really there are very few other organizations of...
There's Zuhdi Jasser.
is Muslim organizations, mainstream, large Muslim organizations in the United States that are not linked with the Muslim Brotherhood, well, same difference, with the Muslim Brotherhood in the United States. And
Well,
so you have organizations like Zuhdi Jasser's,
Yeah.
or Former Muslims United, and then you're casting
That's
out
one phone booth. That's one phone booth
that's
in
right.
opposition.
The rest of the world.
That's why Andy McCarthy, a colleague of Claire and myself on Sharia the Threat, wrote a book called Willful Blindness.
Blindness,
Willful
right.
Blindness. But let's touch on, take a minute or two to sketch out Iraq as it should have been, Iraq as it is. I'm going to bring Ben on, Ben Smith, who served in Iraq, get an on-the-ground view, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, good. Well, of course, the United States have been monitoring Iraq and Saddam Hussein and his weapons of mass destruction programs for a very long time. Those programs were enormous, robust, benefited from input from the Soviet Union, Russia, China, Pakistan, all of the above. And so finally, the patience ran out. In 2003, Operation Iraqi Freedom, United Nations, 50-something countries joined with the United States to depose Saddam Hussein. And that was done very quickly with amazing speed. And Saddam was deposed, the Ba'athist regime was no more. And then the sorry litany of errors began. The campaign itself was brilliant and fast. What followed was not so much. We got into positions of influence in the U.S., people, military, analysts, others, who thought that everybody in the world, given the chance to be free of dictatorship and oppression, moves to some sort of default position called love of liberty and democracy. Well, there's no such thing. There's no such thing as universal values or desire for democracy. There just isn't. And of course, Iraq is a very Muslim country and has been since the beginning of Islam in the 7th century. So we went in there with the idea of nation building, installing a democracy. And we went through the mechanics of it. We got the ballot boxes and the polling places set up, and we actually helped them to stage elections. But that wasn't really democracy. That was the mechanics of democracy. As long as you've got Islam, Sharia law, governing the lives of society and the people, you're never going to have genuine democracy. It's an incompatibility at the most fundamental level. And yes, we, the United States, and our brilliant young State Department officials went over there and helped them to write a new constitution. And what did we do? We put Sharia law, Shiite Sharia law at the head
they have in
of
Iran.
their constitution.
Yeah.
Which automatically meant there was going to be a civil war because the majority of people in Iraq are Shiites, 60% or so, but there's also a strong minority of Sunnis who are not Shiites and don't want to be under Shiite law or governance, and of course the Kurds. So this set up what has followed ever since, civil war, we made a hash out of it. And now, of course, Iraq is falling further and further under the domination, under the influence of its neighbor, its large, powerful Shiite neighbor, Iran, and moving into its orbit in the absence of any true foundation of real democracy there.
Let's get a first-person view of some of the goings on, some of the activity, some of the development in Iraq. We have our good friend Benjamin Smith with us. Benjamin, are you there?
Hi, Ben.
Ben?
Oh, Ben.
We got it.
Oh, Ben.
Is it working?
Yes, it's working.
okay.
We got comms, Ben.
All right.
Okay.
The Shiite Muslim Claire is right on, and I could just follow up on so much.
Well, let me introduce you first. People don't know who you are. They think you're
Because you were
some.
there. You were guarding the people writing this Constitution.
They think you're some schmuck off
Yeah.
the street, but you're not. You're some schmuck out of the Navy.
Some Navy schmuck.
Yeah. Ben is a.
Locatelli.
Judge Locatelli.
Benjamin Smith has been on our show many times, and he's a true patriot. He made a decision to go into the military, did that, went into the Navy, decided to go through BUDS, which is the training course to become a SEAL. But, who does he think he is? Benjamin Smith. He made it. He made it through all the training, became somebody that, one of the few people on the face of the earth that wear the trident. He did that and was dispatched various places around the world, one of which was in Iraq. Tell us about your experience there, Ben.
Well, dovetailing on the end of the last topic, Iran, they were absolutely there in our intel briefs, in just general conversation. Everyone knew that Iran was there. They were enhancing bomb-making techniques. They had, they were supplying ammunition, and they were. It wasn't like anything quiet. It wasn't anything that was kept inside any top-secret room. It was just known that Iran was totally, like, the infiltration was there. They had the Badr Corps. They had a whole bunch of Iranian reserves, like reserve corps, in the country, and they were letting them. And now, if you start going over towards, you've got Syria using, like, the reason why we went into Iraq was, there was weapons of mass destruction, and that's not just nuclear bombs. That's chemical, biological, sarin, VX, all mustard gas, all the stuff that they have out there now. Now, isn't it kind of funny that you look at Syria, and what's Bashar al-Assad using now? And what did we say went there? Weapons of mass destruction. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, they did have them. They had them there. They used them. They used the VX. Saddam Hussein used that stuff on his own people. We know they had them. He used them. 30,000 people dead with VX gas.
Yeah.
Well, Claire was, you were a witness, weren't you, on a significant trial that proved that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, Claire?
No, I think you might be thinking about the Havlish case, which had to do with Iran's involvement together with Al-Qaeda and Hezbollah.
Oh, right.
In the
That's
attacks of 9/11. But I certainly have followed the case of Iraq and its WMD programs, which it absolutely did have. It did not have a nuclear bomb per se, but it had elements of a nuclear weapons program. And yes, indeed, in the months and weeks prior to our invasion in 2003, convoys of trucks went up the Euphrates River on up into Syria to take elements of those programs there. And the Spetsnaz forces from Russia came to get their stuff out by plane because they didn't want their fingerprints found all over it when the U.S. troops came in.
Yeah, Ben,
they had a lot of things going on beforehand as well, where like there was leaders of like Assad, Arafat, Saddam, and who were like Iranian leaders at the time. Before we went in, they had a summit. I'm trying to remember the book I got it from. You read so many. Oh my god! But it was talking about those guys coming together in a summit, saying, the U.S. is coming. This is Bush's son. This is possibly what could happen, and this is where we're going. Saddam, they're going to be coming for you. Now, here's what you do. Like, a lot of what was going on was a setup. The way that the insurgency happened, the way that we just crushed them, they put up a little bit of fight, but they were already ready with scuttling their uniforms. They had caches of guns, explosives, old Russian OFABs. We used to come across Iraqi police places or just caches out in the middle of towns or big open fields where it was old Russian 500-pound blind World War II bombs with just explosive in there, 500 pounds each. And that's what they knew they were going to do VBIDs. They knew they were going to do IEDs. And then you start talking about the timeline. I think, Claire, what you're saying, I came in and you were just referencing it. I think we're in stage 4 or 5, and that's been in the past 5 to 5 years. I think we're in one of those stages, and just went into another one of taking down, establishing caliphate and then taking down the rulers. And
yeah, hang on one second, everybody. I mean, people think we're crazy. Stage 5. It's stage 5 of taking over the world by the Muslims. Oh, here's these crazy right-wing people. This stuff, folks. Trento Vision here. Tom Trento, Mark CJ, Ben Smith, a former SEAL, Claire Lopez, retired CIA person, operative around the world. These are people that have been in theater, on the ground, working all this stuff. We know from all of our other friends what's going on in the world. But it's so incomprehensible that there's a worldwide movement by Islam to take control and to use weapons of mass destruction as a methodology to subduing the rest of the West, that you go, that can't happen.
It sounds like a sick James Bond movie. It really does. It sounds like, okay, where's Dr. Evil at? Okay, I mean, that's what it sounds like. It sounds
if we point back to Lower Manhattan and say there used to be 2 big buildings there, they go, oh yeah, but that was in the past. That had nothing to do with any of this. That was the graphic illustration.
Okay,
of
but my
all of this.
question is, why do so many non-Sharia compliant people, so many non-Islamists cooperate with this? Why are they cooperating? What is going on in our culture? What is happening in the East and the West?
Before we get to that, I want to get to that. But before we get to that, for the viewers and listeners, they like Ben. They want to know more about Ben.
They want to see pictures of Ben.
Ben, give us a typical day. You're with a SEAL squad. Give us a typical day of what you did as a SEAL in Iraq and what the day looked like. Sketch that out for us.
Oh, geez. Well, it just depended. I mean, sometimes you're going out and you're posing as a rock. You're in the middle of sun, in the middle of the desert. Sometimes you are absolutely in the middle of, on the outskirts of a hot zone, like whether you got Fallujah or you got Ramadi. You're with the platoon of guys. You're getting ready. You're just looking after your kit and your gear that it's up for when you're going to need it. Which, you come in, you go out, you lose. There's no sleep. It's just go, go, go. But then there's also, when we were over there, we were doing protection on the provisional government that was installed there. And, we gave them a founding moment. I've referenced that a bunch of times. But what we didn't do, we went about it all wrong. And, oh, geez, how do you say this? We set people free. But it's like feeding a goldfish. If you feed it too much, it just dies. If you feed somebody who just got out of a prison camp too much food, they will die. We set them free from huge oppression for 64 years or 46 years. And then, they didn't know what to do. The people didn't know what to do. They went running to whoever had stability in the area. We just said, hey, you're free. Now go get a job and feed your family. We needed to hold them tighter and then slowly let them out. You stretch before you go running.
Well, like in World War II after MacArthur, that's what they did. They had the perfect model of which to follow, and then they totally did another thing.
Yeah, but Claire's point is that maybe they're irredeemable. They can't be redeemed. Maybe Islam is so...
Well, you could have said that easily about the Shinto government, and the ideology is nearly identical as far as the,
Well, is there
Bushido.
Yeah, Claire, is there a historic record of any group or small country of Muslims of Islam that have, through conquest, turned to the West or democracy of some sort?
No, of course not. It's impossible. There are countries like, people will reference Turkey, for example, which under the iron-fisted rule of Kemal Ataturk, after the First World War back in the 20th century, was forcibly secularized in a public way. But as we see now with the resurgence of the Islamic model and perhaps a caliphate, obviously the ruling party, Justice and Freedom and Justice Party, and the ruler Tayyip Erdogan have neo-Ottoman ambitions. Islam rises back up because fundamentally democracy is about what? It is about the equality of all people, the freedom of each individual, the value of the individual as the key unit in society, and the responsibility of government to be responsive to the people and the ability of the people to change the government when they want to.
And it's culturally
these are
anesthetic.
sort of the fundamentals of democracy. And there are other things like our freedoms of free speech and freedom of belief, freedom of assembly, and all of the other precious freedoms. But those are the basics. And any country under Sharia, which is basically written into the constitutions of practically every single member of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, that's the international body that includes all the Muslim countries, in their constitutions is Sharia. Well, Sharia doesn't believe that the individual is the key, most important unit in society. Sharia demands by law that Muslims be not equal to non-Muslims, that men and women cannot be equal. This is law under Islam.
Yes.
That minorities who are not Muslim do not have the same rights under law or protections as Muslims do.
Yes.
So many other things, the horrific hudud punishments are part of Sharia law. There's a complete incompatibility between democracy and Sharia. They cannot coexist.
Absolutely. And Claire, you see, like with Sharia, and it is like you heard Jefferson say, separation of church and state to bring it around to the founders. Islam, if we've got too much freedom, we start to create our own enemies. Ourselves, entitlement, and lethargy in not seeing what's there. It's ignorance. We ignore it, so it's ignorance. Anyway, and we have the First Amendment on, shall establish no law, establishing religion or hindering it type of stuff. Islam knows this and sees it, and knows that we're not going to complain or crush or quell, and they've seen it in our history where we're not going to say anything for the religions that are out there. Now, what they have, Sharia, is ordained by Allah, and it is everything that we're against, everything that our Constitution is against: free thought, free will, ownership of property, equal rights for women, all of those types of things, and also can humans govern themselves? But it basically gives them a home base inside the United States of Islamic government. We always have to, and what we've always done, we see every war and conflict that we're in as an individual conflict instead of one that is overarching over hundreds or could be even thousands of years. And they see it as just one drive.
Yeah, but Ben, you were hanging with the provisional government. You had to get up. You had to go talk to these people. You had to have a plan of where you were all going to drive, what the escape routes were, what the contingency plans were. Did you sit down with the provisional leaders ever and talk about democracy in America and all of that?
Yeah, I was with Barham Salih, and he was the deputy prime minister, and he spent a lot of time in England and learning in school, and his kids were in school out there. And they were writing the Constitution. I mean, I think we gave them too much leeway to put certain things in there. We say, okay, no, Sharia doesn't go in there. But he would, at certain points, he would always ask these philosophical questions, as in, the ones that stay with me now because of what we're doing. He looked at me one day and he goes, "Why are you here? Why do you risk your life to give me a chance to sit here and write something on a blank piece of paper?"
That's the story I want.
And then he says, he goes, "What is it to be an American?" And he would often have these pondering type of questions that are just chew on this and get back to me.
Well, what was your answer, man? You got us on a cliff here. What was your answer?
It wasn't the answer. It was the question that changed my life. It's kind of driven me and made me come to where I am now, because I realized anything that I would have uttered was not going to be apropos to the moment that this man is asking me. He's writing the Constitution. We gave them a founding moment. And he's asking me what it is to be an American. What is the Constitution to me? And I knew America like everybody else did, but I didn't know it to the point where, I knew what America would be without the things that have brought us to this point. And it started me on reading books and getting into how politics works, your civic duty as you're supposed to pay attention to it. And it was amazing. But, you see the way it was going, and, now you see Obama just gave it right back to Iran. And, we lost a lot of lives in vain there. Thank you, Mr. Obama. But it was really interesting because in that, they would be going around trying to talk to tribal leaders, people we knew that were shady as all get out. It's people say Mexican standoff. I come up with it's like an Iraqi standoff, because we'd be in there and you've got all the leaders from the parties, and they tried to have like Ayat Alawi, Barham Salih, Talabani, all different types of Shias, the Sunnis, the Kurds, the guys from Basra down south, and standing in a room as a detail that your job is to keep your guy alive, and we're there as Americans, and then that there's Sunnis, Shias, and Kurds. Those people hate each other to the extent where, like, Americans just don't understand. And sitting in a room with guys with AKs, we're all dressed up in in little golf shirts and pants and the contractor uniform, but we're all sitting there with hands on guns, staring at each other. Like the break room, waiting for your guy to come out of whatever meeting they're in and doing. It's like a pin drop. It's kind of interesting, but
it's like Hatfield McCoy on steroids, is what you're saying. It's beyond our comprehension, is what you're saying.
It's serious. And it's kind of like the farther we go from having to defend our liberty or to earn our liberty, you start turning into the entitlement. No, it's just there. You take it for granted. Granted is you're entitled to it. It's just there. You expect it. And that's a lot of things that where they see it as Islam does. You can put it on communism, understands this as well, and that's what they were trying to do to us, and that's what we were doing to Russia in our own special way to communism around the world during the Cold War. And they're seeing where we're neglecting to see the rest of the world, or neglecting to see where our country has come from, and they're just hitting all the little things. And they understand that they have time on their side, because when you're doing clandestine operations, or sieging someplace, you sit there and you wait them out. They're on alert all the time, knowing that you're coming at some point. And you could be sitting out there resting, waiting, just doing little bit by little bit, and they're having to be ready for 24 hours a day, and then after a while, they just, okay, they're not out there. They forget about you. That's when you sting them.
You're with Tom Trento on Trento Vision, CJ, Mark, and then on the line our two guests. Claire is Skyped in for those of you watching. That's Claire, right in the center. Your head is floating right above us.
Yes.
Claire, if you could see that.
As the goddess
Yeah.
above.
Yes, and Claire's retired CIA operations officer, currently with Center for Security Policy and RadicalIslam.org. Go to our good friend's website, RadicalIslam.org, for all this information. And we have Benjamin Smith, a former SEAL, Navy SEAL, who served in Iraq, giving us some on-the-ground experiences on this Mexican or Iraqi standoff. And I think, CJ, we got somebody on the line for these guys?
Yes, we do. We have Judah on the line, who I believe has a question for Ben and Claire.
How you doing, Judah?
Are you there?
Yeah, hi. Good afternoon. How's everybody today?
Good.
Tom, you can also jump in on this, because I know you have a degree in theology, and this is actually a question for thought. And I realize your guests are not theologians, but I think this question is fundamental to our understanding of why, as Ms. Lopez said, democracy and Islam are totally incompatible. One of, or perhaps the fundamental underlying concept that Judaism and Christianity accepts is that humanity is made in the image of God, and therefore we we will look towards human dignity and that the human being has freedom of choice. So my question is, and I don't think this exists in Islam, but my question is, does Islam accept that fundamental principle that the human being is made in the image of God?
I'll take that one.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Judah.
The concept of the deity that Islam calls Allah is unknowable. Now, he has 99 attributes, of course, and you can find those listed out on the internet, but he is unknowable, and there is nothing like him in Islam, according to Islamic theology. And therefore, to even suggest that a human being could be made in the image and likeness of God is utter blasphemy in Islam. And therefore, it's as you say, it's a fundamental difference between Islam and Judaism and Christianity.
Well,
hang on 1 second. Get Mark real fast.
Yeah, I'd like to, from all the studying that we've done, is the fundamental precept of Islam is thou shalt not think. You just react and do. There is no thought in Islam. You have to squelch all that. I mean, whereas in Christianity and Judaism, you must think. You are individually responsible. You're not responsible. That's the reason you have to blame everything on everybody else in Islam. That's the reason you're not responsible for your action. You just think and do.
Yeah, Judah, go ahead, Claire. We got
real quick, there's the concept in Islam that everything that happens, has ever happened, or will happen is the will of Allah. Therefore, if I drop my pencil on the floor, it's not that gravity or the laws of gravity, the Newtonian laws of gravity brought that pencil to the floor. It's because Allah willed it to fall. There is no concept of causality.
Right.
That the laws of gravity cause it to fall.
And the application of this principle, Judah, in the battlefield is when a jihadi or mujahideen is standing over a 5-year-old kid with a gun, and the kid's from the other side. He says it's Allah's will, because I have a gun on him, he's from the other side. It's Allah's will that this little kid dies, and he shoots the kid, simply because of this fatalism. But let me illustrate the point a little differently here. Right now, the Gulf media and the brother of Osama bin Laden are producing a $1 billion movie, $1 billion movie on the life and teachings of the Prophet Muhammad. It's going to be a 7-part movie, and they have been spending years trying to figure out how they can depict Muhammad on the screen. Simply because, as Claire said, you can't even consider oneness with Allah, and you certainly can't consider seeing the Prophet. So they've said we can't show the Prophet. Then there was a question, and the historic Sharia says you can't even show the followers of the Prophet, his team. But they went to Qaradari, and they've gotten a workaround, and they're going to be able to show the teammates, the followers of the Prophet, depict them physically. I mean, this is the extent.
But not by cartoon or anything. And
no, this is a dramatic 7-part deal. But the point is, Judaism and Christianity, the Judeo-Christian worldview and the Islamic worldview, are simply in contradistinction to one another when it comes to the nature of God and whether or not God is knowable, as Claire said, or whether the imago Dei in the Christian world, the Latin term is imago Dei, the image of God is in us, that's our soul. To talk like that in Islam, you get your head chopped off. It's that simple. But in any way, we're going to have to close this segment here. And Ben, can you stay with us? I think he may have dropped off. He sent
Ben, are you there?
He sent me a text
No,
here.
Ben had to go.
I'll be back in a minute.
Oh, okay. Take 5, Ben. Everybody.
Oh no, lots of fire trucks and stuff going on outside his house. Yeah. So he had to run out. Claire, you can hang in, right?
I'll be here.
Yeah, excellent.
You.
Judah, thank you for calling.
Thank you for calling, Judah.
TrentoVision.tv, WNN 1470 at 55 minutes past the hour, 5 minutes to 5 o'clock. We will see you folks in just a minute.